Good afternoon, good evening to you all. In this lesson, we are going to talk about chemical reactions. So, in the previous section, in section 2.2, we learned about how atoms bond together through ionic bonds, covalent bonds, and hydrogen bonds. Now, in this section, section 2.3, we will take the next logical step and ask an important question. The question is, what happens when those bonds break or rearrange, or then they are formed again? Now, the answer is this: chemical reactions. So, chemical reactions are happening constantly. It's always happening inside your body, in every cell, in every tissue, every second of your life, because without these chemical reactions, our metabolism would stop and energy would not be released and life would simply not be possible. So, in this section, we will focus on the fundamental types of chemical reactions and the role of enzymes and activation energy, as these concepts explain how the body controls chemistry safely, efficiently, and rapidly. So let's get started with the fundamental chemical reactions. So take note that a chemical reaction occurs when chemical bonds are either broken, broken, formed, or rearranged. And these substances that enter a chemical reaction is what we call the reactants. So these substances that enters these are what we call as reactants. And the substances that are produced are the produced products. So that's very important to remember. So it's also very important to remember that chemical reactions does not create or destroy atoms, but instead atoms are simply rearranged into new combinations. This idea follows the conservation of matter, that we cannot create nor destroy atoms. So, in the human body, all chemical reactions occurring at a given moment collectively make up metabolism. And there are three fundamental types of chemical reactions that are especially important in anatomy and sexology. So, first of all, we have what we call the composition. So, I'm sorry, this should be the first one. But, anyways, this one here, bookworm, it turns into book plus worm. So this is an example of a decomposition reaction. So in a decomposition reaction, a large complex molecule is broken down to smaller and simpler molecules. So that type of reaction is also what we call as catabolism. And there's a general formula for a decomposition reaction, and it looks like this. It looks like A, B. I will write it here. I hope that you would see. One second. Uh, A, B, A plus B. So that is, this is the general formula of the composition reaction. The composition, two different atoms or molecules, and they get broken into different simpler molecules, just like that. So in the body, decomposition reactions are very important. for digestion of food, because digestion involves separating different substances. And we also have what we call it's also important for the breakdown of stored energy, recycling of molecules inside cells. And a very important example of decomposition reaction is what we call in hydrolysis. If you don't know what an hydrolysis is, it's a molecule of water that is added, and the water splits into an hydrogen ion and a hydroxyl group. So, for example, we have H2O, and that composition is they are separated into H plus ions. I'm actually gonna put it superscript so it doesn't very then O and a hydroxyl group. So this is the hydrolysis, a water molecule, and it decomposes into a hydrogen ion and a hydroxyl group, which is very important for large carbohydrates to be broken into simple sugars. Also, proteins that can be broken down into amino acids or triglycerides that are broken down into fatty acids and glycerol. And without a decomposition reaction, nutrients would be too large to be absorbed and used by the body. It would be really, really hard for the body to, it would be really hard for them to digest. And our second one is what we call synthesis reactions. So that's the opposite of this decomposition reaction. So we have two simple groups and it forms into a more complex molecules. These synthesis reactions are also called what we call as anabolism. So small molecules join together to form a larger, more complex molecules. And and the general formula for that is A plus B is equal to AB, just like that. So, a common biological example is um, a dehydration synthesis. So, for example, in a dehydration synthesis, a hydrogen atom is removed from one molecule, and another hydroxyl group is removed from a water, and this combines to form water. So basically, just the opposite of this decomposition reaction to form water. And a covalent bond forms between those two molecules. Yeah, so when this is they are mixed together, a covalent bond is formed, and this process of dehydration is used to build proteins from amino acids, to build polysaccharides, to form, proteins from amino acids and polysaccharides from monosaccharides. We also have lipids from fatty acids and glycerol, and nucleic acids from nucleotides. So basically, we're going from very small. For example, a monosaccharide is a simple complex compound, meaning it's only a one type of carbohydrate, and we have also polysaccharide. I mean, and it forms the polysaccharides, which becomes a more and more complex type of carbohydrates. So, synthesis reactions is essential for growth, for tissue repair, as different forms of molecules join together to repair your tissues, and maintenance of cellular structure to keep our cells intact. And without them, the body would not build or replace its own molecules. Like, for example, if you got a wound, it won't really, it will be hard, or maybe it will be like that forever if we don't have what we call the synthesis reaction. Next is the third type of fundamental chemical reaction is what we call the exchange reaction. And these bonds are formed and broken such that the components of the reactants are rearranged. So excuse me. So in an exchange reaction, parts of the molecules are swapped, which produces new molecules that are neither simpler nor more complex. So it's basically they're kind of the same, but it forms different kinds of molecules. So, for example, we have here note and book, and the note becomes a different kind of molecule. And we have the bookworm, and it forms a different types of molecule. So the general formula of this type of synthesis is A plus B plus C plus D. I mean AB plus CD forms into AC plus BD. So as you can see, they are different from this molecule. This molecule is different, but those molecules are kind of combined. But for this example, the general formula of that is AB plus C, and it forms into A plus BC. So there are different kinds, different types. And this is what we call single replacement exchange reaction. This is what we also call this is what we call the double replacement reaction, because this only replaces one, but this replaces two. So exchange reactions are very common, especially for those involving enzymes and energy transfer. Like for example, exchange reactions are important in ATP production to make us alive, the energy. It also important in buffer systems that regulates the pH, acidity of pH level. Also important in cellular signaling pathways. These reactions allow the body to rearrange atoms efficiently to without completely breaking down. And yeah, so that's it. And take note, all chemical reactions involve energy, as energy is defined as the capacity to do work, and work refers to the movement or change. So we have change here. So change needs work, and work needs energy. So these chemical reactions involve energy. Easy like that. And there are um I'll give you a heads up. There are two major forms of energy involved in chemical reactions. You probably heard this in physics. First of all, we have potential energy, or that's also what we call as the stored energy. And we also have kinetic energy, which is the energy in motion. Chemical bonds store potential energy, and when those bonds are formed, broken, and that energy may be released or absorbed, right? And um some reactions release more energy than they require, and those are called exergonic reactions, and we also have reactions that require more energy than they release, and these are what we call endergonic reactions. So, the body is very, very cool, very complex, as it carefully controls these reactions so that energy is released in useful, manageable amounts. So that's it actually for the different types of chemical reactions. So let's move on with enzymes and activation energy. Okay, and let's talk about enzymes, which is really essential for life. So first of all, let's talk what is an enzyme. So enzyme is a biological catalyst. It's usually a protein that speeds up chemical reactions without being consumed or permanently changed. Even reactions that release energy do not happen automatically. First of all, they require small input of energy, which is also what we call as activation energy. And those activation energy is the energy that is needed to break existing bonds, to bring reactants together to form a synthesis compound, synthesis reaction, and to start a reaction. Because without enzymes, the activation energy required for many, many reactions would be so, so high, and that the reaction would occur to slowly to sustain life. And enzymes solve this problem by lowering the activation energy, right? Because if we don't have any enzymes, um, we would require um, a greater amount of activation energy. And with enzymes, it solves that problem by lowering it. Okay, so each enzyme has a specific region, or what we call an active site. And the molecules that bind to the enzyme are what we call substrates. Okay, so here's how an enzymatic reaction works. So substrates approach to the enzymes. I wish we would have a picture here actually, but I don't have anything prepared. So this is I'll just use the shapes tool. So that is an example of an enzyme, right? And let's say this is the enzyme and this is the substrate. I can put it. So this is the enzyme and this is the substrate. And the enzyme, this is what we call the active site of the enzyme. So how substrates would approach the enzyme until it looks like that. And the substrate binds to the active site of the enzyme, which forms the enzyme substrate complex. And that enzyme stabilizes the reaction and lowers the activation energy, which causes this, it lowers it. So it's like a catalyst. So the products are released, and the enzyme, so the products, so this substrate, it releases, it releases, and then the enzyme is free to be used again. So that process is very, very fast and efficient, and a fun fact that a single enzyme can catalyze thousands of reactions per second. Yeah, really amazing how enzymes work. And also, enzymes are very, very specific as as each enzyme typically works with only one substrate or a small group of related substrates. And this pacify is often described using the lock and key model or the induced fit model. And if the enzyme shape is altered, like for example, um, the enzymes, let's have the example there. The enzymes, it, for example, this enzyme, and if this its shape is altered, it goes into different kinds of forms. That is what we call denaturation, and enzyme can now longer bind to its substrate. So denaturation can occur due to the changes in temperature or the changes or of pH levels. And also if it's exposed to chemicals and can also cause for the enzymes to be altered. So this is why maintaining homeostasis is very, very important to the human body. So, the importance of enzymes, and it makes life possible by allowing reactions to occur at body temperature. It regulates metabolic pathways, it prevents uncontrolled chemical reactions, and it also ensures efficiency and precision. And if we don't have any enzymes, digestion would take years and years, and cells would not produce ATP efficiently. It would be really hard. We would be really weak if we don't have ATP in our body. And DNA could not be replicated, so we won't have any offspring, we won't have any child if we want to. And life could not exist if we don't have any enzymes. So every heartbeat, every breath, and every thought depends on enzyme activities. So that's it for this lesson, and I will show you our next lesson. Quick heads up. The next lesson we will explore inorganic compounds essential to human functioning, and we will talk about water. We will begin with water. We will also talk about the association of sodium chloride and water. We talk about acids and bases and the pH scale. So that's it for this lesson. I hope you understood something. So leave a like on this video if you understood it and learned something. And I'll see you in the next lesson. Have a nice day. See ya.